I'm Shan Davies and my date of birth was 20th of April 1963. We lived in Leman Street, which is by Aldgate East Station. Sounds probably fancy. It was a townhouse and apparently worth millions these days, but it was rented. We lived, me, my parents and my sister lived in the bottom part of the house, and my grandparents lived at the top. And the property was rented by my grandfather, who was kind of a typical Jewish man, a tailor, went to synagogue and all of that. And he rented for probably quite a low rent. It was, you know, it was not a very fancy property. And I think at one point the landlord asked whether he wanted to buy it for not that much money, and he said no, because he was one of those, I'll just carry on with this and my quiet life. And shame really, because it would have been, we'd have been rich had he bought it at the time, but it wasn't to be. My dad worked, he worked in the building trade, mainly in demolition. My mum worked at Petticoat Lane Market, she was a sales lady, and she always said that she could just sell anything to anybody, and that may well have been the case. She worked in a dress shop called Braffman, which was quite a well-known establishment in Petticoat Lane Market. He'd do an auction every Sunday of sorts, where he'd stand up and sell off the dresses and, you know, do you want to buy this one for £10? What about £5? And he was quite a character. He had his little catchphrases. One of them was, "Has everybody heard of Christian Dior? Well, I'm the Jewish Dior," that sort of thing. So yeah, she worked there for years. Well, like lots of the Jewish community in the East End, we weren't particularly wealthy, you know, but we were okay. And again, like lots of Jewish kids, we didn't go hungry. My mum was very much for appearance, very much kind of, well, you know, if you look good, if you look smart, then people just think you're okay, you're fine. Never kind of let your appearance look shabby or whatever. So, you know, it was quite hard to maintain sometimes, but that was her view. So yeah, went to a small primary school, then went on to the local secondary school. Yeah, we didn't play out a lot. I think that my socialising was more going round to friends' houses. When I was at primary school, you'd go and have a play date at your friend's house, and then they would come round to yours. So it was more that than actually playing out in the local street. Well, I think it was because, I mean, thinking back now, it didn't particularly occur to me at the time, but I wasn't massively talkative, sociable child, I don't think. You probably wouldn't think it now. I guess I could talk a glass eye to sleep, but at the time I think my mum was quite keen for me to mix with other children, and maybe also to mix with other Jewish children. Although, funny enough, when I joined, it was with a school friend, a friend from primary school who wasn't Jewish, but her older brother was a member at Brady. So we went together and we joined together. She didn't stay for that long, but I liked it and I felt like it was an environment that I enjoyed. So I continued going. I was quite young. I remember going into the office because we had to kind of sign up to become members. And it was Sonia, who was the leader, was in there, and she was just asking basic questions, you know, name, the age and that sort of thing. And then it was almost kind of, I don't know, it was a bit scary, this sort of new place and these people that I'd never met before. And I think we spent a lot of the first bit kind of my friend and I kind of walking around and sitting down and not really taking part in that much. But I think once my friend had sort of stopped going, I then became more involved and, you know, started doing more activities there and making other friends, which was lovely, really good. There were a couple of boys who were at my primary school that were members at Brady, but none of the girls. There were various activities. I remember I played netball. That was one of the things that I do. I can remember there be a kind of little group, and you'd maybe have a little sing-song or do a little sort of almost a drama scene or something like that. And there was a lot of just kind of just chatting to people, really. As time went on, I did see people sort of during school holidays, so outside of Brady, but initially it was just, you know, what went on in there. I'd say netball was one of the things. As I don't think I was a particularly sporty person prior to that, but then I gave that a go and I thought, I can sort of do this a bit. It was actually in the gym in the club. It was inside, inter-club netball. We did a fashion show. We might have done it for a couple of years, but I was in it one year and we had to go off. We practiced and we had our outfits, and I remember one of Sonia's friends worked on one of the weekly women's magazines, either Woman or Woman's Own or one of those, in their fashion department. So she was brought in to give us a little bit of advice and bring in a few outfits that she could borrow. So we did that, walked along to music. It was kind of a setup of a catwalk. All the clubs were competing, and then there were various prizes given out to people. And I do remember I was wearing this I borrowed it from my sister actually. It was a taffeta skirt and a sequin top. And the music that I was walking along to was from Gigi, the night they invented champagne. And I remember when we did the first rehearsal and they said, right, this is the width of the catwalk, you just have to walk along there and sort of show what you're wearing. And I sort of stood there and I was quite interested in dancing at the time, and I just kind of danced along this catwalk like in a sort of almost can-canny way, and then I said, and they said, actually that's really good, can you do that when we actually do the thing? And so I said, yeah, okay, I'll do it like that. And I did actually get a little acknowledgement and a little award for the outstanding dancing when we actually got to the competition. Quite proud moment for me. I think Sonia Muscovich was known as a manager, and then I know that she went on to sort of study youth work, etc. And I was involved in, she had a little group of us. There was we were 3 girls and 1 or 2 boys who were a friendship group at the time, and one of her projects was to have discussions with us and you know, find out what we thought about things and how we interact, and watch how we interacted with each other and talk about our experiences at the club. And we would go round to her house every week and we'd have a chat, and she used that as her project in the course that she was doing on youth leadership. So there was Sonia, and there was Eric Finestone, the leader, and his wife Ruth was around as well. And otherwise, I do remember Ray Moss, and there were a few people. There was Sonia's friend Mim used to do some stuff with us, but they used to kind of maybe lead a sort of little group of us to doing something, maybe a sports activity or something like that. And I think that was it was almost like unofficial. They'd been there for a long time, they were experienced, and so they were, you know, able to look after us and you know, get us involved in something. Yeah, I went to one of the Belgium trips, and I went to Israel as well when we were 16. Yeah, we did a 3-week trip to Israel, touring around different places, which was great because I've never been back to Israel since then. So it was a great opportunity to be able to go. Eric Finestone was there, Sonia as well, I think. So yeah, they looked after us. Yeah, skeet was always good fun. Yeah, I mean, there would always be activities and games, and it would just be a really nice experience in the dormitories, just hanging out with the girls and chatting and so on. So yeah, it was a really nice experience. It's something that you just wouldn't have done. I guess there would have been school trips in secondary school, and yeah, I probably went on 1 and 2 of those. But as a younger person, it was just a great experience to socialise and mix with people. My parents were quite keen on holidaying, so as soon as it was, you know, package holidays abroad, we did sort of take off to Spain for, you know, on the Costas. But to be somewhere with a group of people of your own age. It was just a really nice experience. No, I didn't really, and it's only recently, I mean, you sort of connect up with people on Facebook, but it's only recently that I have actually seen people that I hadn't seen for 40, 45 years, which is quite odd, really. But, you know, we managed to catch up and chat to each other and talk about things that went on then, and talk about a lot of what has happened since, because obviously a lot of time has passed, and it was, you know, it's great hearing about what people did with their lives. I think that Brady was very significant for me because it taught me to socialise with people. As I said, I think I was quite a withdrawn, shyer child, and it maybe brought me out of myself more and gave me a sense of being relaxed with groups of people. Yeah, I think it did a lot. I think it had a very positive effect on me. I think it was trying to bring together the Jewish community, the youngsters, the Jewish community, and you know, there'd been generations before us. My mum was not a Brady girl; she was at the other club, Oxford and St George's. So, but she also had that experience, that similar sort of experience. Yeah, I mean, I guess in my nature, I'm not a great person for really kind of maintaining contacts or keeping in touch with people. I'll always turn up to things if I'm asked to, but as far as organisation goes, I'm not so good. So I think that's why I kind of lost touch with people and then moved on into different environments, school friends, work friends, you know, hooked up with other groups of people. And it was nice to see, though, how a lot of the girls had kept in touch all the time. They did go to the same school, though, and I didn't go to their school, so I think that was a lot to do with it. But yeah, I mean, I easily could have made myself part of the group, but I just kind of had different interests, I suppose. But for the time that it existed, yeah, it was great. A big part of being there was always the boys that you liked, you know, and you chat to, oh, I really fancy so and so, and then someone would, okay, well maybe, you know, can you tell him because I don't want to say anything, and it was all very much, you know, a kiddie thing, and then you'd see, you know, you'd have a bit of a kiss and, you know, and all of that sort of thing. I never really formed a particular, I mean, I'd be, you know, maybe like a boy and they would like me, and that would be sort of fairly short-lived. But I never proceeded to see people in that way later on. I never dated anyone to a serious degree. Obviously, a lot of people met and married from Brady. You know, that's where they met each other, and a lot of them are still married to this day. Some of them aren't. But yeah, no, I did all when I kind of moved on to meet new people. Yeah, I never really met anyone from there anymore, and I never mixed in any Jewish communities after that. None of my friends were Jewish. None of the boyfriends I had following on for that were Jewish. I've never had an adult relationship with a Jewish man. Yeah, I just drifted apart from it, really. But yeah, definitely boys it was a big thing. Going back in time, people would think of being Jewish as being a religious issue. I'm not religious. In fact, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. But I identify as being ethnically Jewish. And when I've done my ancestry DNA, that will come up as showing me as Jewish because it's an ethnicity. Unlike someone who chooses to be Catholic, that's not going to come up as their, you know. So it's, I see it as an ethnicity. And I know that my children, particularly my daughter, she's quite into that Jewish ethnicity thing, but none of us are religious or, you know, at all. And I still do feel Jewish, and if, you know, I do relate to being Jewish, and the fact that I never had any relationships with Jewish, it wasn't deliberate. I didn't avoid being with anyone, you know, or look for someone who wasn't. It was just who, you know, you marry who you meet, really, don't you? And, you know, I just mixed in certain circles that weren't predominantly Jewish, I suppose. Yeah, but I do identify as being Jewish ethnically. Yeah, I think because there's so much more there now. There's social media, and I think that's just made a huge difference to everything. So people can engage, young people can engage with each other, basically without seeing each other that often, and I think that has had an impact. I think maybe people talk about online communities, so they join some sort of online group and that's their community, as opposed to back then when physically we were in a community where we actually met each other. And sometimes you just kind of think, how did we ever manage to meet up and get to a particular place at a particular time? Because now you're like, oh yeah, we'll be at so-and-so, and everyone's messaging each other, yeah, where are you? I'm here, okay, see you in a minute. Then it was, you'd make a phone call on a landline, let's go to so-and-so, I'll meet you at such and such a station at 10 o'clock, and everyone would be there and we'd all, go off and do something. But yeah, I think the way that people engage has changed a lot, whether that's better or worse, but maybe it's not as good as meeting in the flesh and actually doing an activity together. Yeah, I think social media has changed things hugely.